Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using the code FOREVER. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Well, I'm not going to try to do an accent, but I did find this fedora in my dad's stuff. He was a hat collector. So what do you think, guys?
It's a good fedora.
There we go.
Reminds me.
Welcome to we're convening the syndicate again on Thanksgiving Eve. We are now officially bi-weekly through the rest of the season, at least. That's Bryce Coots over there from the Hawks Eye. Below him is Brandon Cain of the Hawks Nest. And below me is Mookie Alexander of Field Goals. We are not playing Hollywood Squares. This is our Seahawks Syndicate Roundtable. And we got a lot to talk about here, boys. Let's start right off the top with what was a surprisingly active and unusual day when it comes to roster moves, right? We got the first just some homegrown stuff. Julian Love not ready to come back today. That was a little bit of bad news we got from Mike McDonald. The good news, I suppose, on the other side of that, doesn't sound like Ty Okada is going to have to go on injury reserve. And so they needed some safety depth. We got a little hint this morning on Twitter from an old friend, and then it was confirmed later, and he was at practice today. Quandre Diggs back in the fold. It's a practice squad move. And when it first happened, I was dismissive of it. I thought, it's probably just deep depth. He's 32 years old now, hasn't played in a couple of weeks. But it sure sounds like it's a hell of a lot more than that. Let's start with you, Bryce. Your thoughts on Quandre Diggs being back in the building?
Well, I love it. I loved Quandre when he was here. And I think Quandre, when he was here in Seattle, kind of got a bit of a raw deal because some of those defenses at that time were not very good. And Quandre, a lot of people pointed to his issues with tackling and such, but given the fact he kind of had a Swiss cheese defense in front of him at times in that 5-year stint, can make life hard on a safety. But I'm happy that he's back. I think he's going to bring some good veteran leadership, especially to some of the young guys like Nicky Manwari. And the other thing I think is to your point, Dan, I think he can step in and play. And I'm not saying he's going to come in and be a superstar, but at least hold the fort down until you get Julian Love back, till Ty Okada can come back, because he's been in this style of system for the last year down in Tennessee with Wilson. And, Mike even alluded to it today. Like, he's already knowing the terminology. He's calling things out. He's seeing things. So maybe it gives you a couple more weeks of leeway with Julian Love. And I know the hope they said was that he comes back next week, but this is one of those things with a hamstring. It can always be tricky. So honestly, I'm happy that, Diggs is back. He seems to be really happy that he's back here, and the guys seem to have received it really well. And I think it's a good move for Seattle for depth purposes.
Yeah. It sounds like it's more than that, though. Like the theme today of every player and even Coach Mike McDonald himself that stood behind the podium and talked to the press was how happy everyone was to have him in the building. What kind of juice do you think this move might bring, Brandon?
I think it could bring some considerable juice considering the injury situation. Oblique is, I think, what we heard that Okada had. I know he's day-to-day, but that thing we've seen with other players take them out for a few different weeks. And the hamstring, as Bryce also mentioned, is a very tricky one. I thought he brought up some good points about the prior defense and what you had Diggs do in that defense, which was a lot of back to the old Carroll of staying single high. But that was also a defensive line that wanted to penetrate. And in their penetration, then leave those safeties more on that island, have to come up and do more when they get up around the line of scrimmage versus this defense, which defensive linemen will hold the point of attack. Quandre, with his background of going from slot to free safety to playing some strong safety, better fits into this type of defense, which will ask you to do a variety of different things in the cover 2 shell. So the fit is really good. Tennessee runs our defense. That's partly why he went there. So he's going to have some familiarity as well within this defense. And I can't undersell as well. Let's not forget, gentlemen, this is what we call the Stafford eliminator. This man practiced against this guy a considerable amount over his time in Detroit, has had, I think, multiple or at least a couple pick, if not one or two, at least 2, I believe, of interceptions on Stafford when he was here during his time. So I think this is a great signing. There's no obviously cost or risk. And I do go back just thinking from a historical perspective, 2005 Super Bowl, halfway into that Super Bowl, you lose the safety position, and that sort of sunk you on the back end in that game. Don't want to have that happen again. Part of what John's trying to do right now is avoid landmines coming down the hill that he can't see.
It's kind of ironic that the Titans let him go. I think officially, as far as the transaction being filed, happened the exact same day that they claimed Jarek Reed on waivers, who the Seahawks had waived and wanted to get back to the practice squad. So because of that, Quandre is available instead of Reed being there for depth. Mookie, I'll let you take the next one then, because the other surprising news, I think, today was the Seahawks signed a new running back. We knew that George Holani got dinged up on Sunday, unfortunately for him, because they were working him into the game plan the last couple of weeks, having some plays set aside for him. Unfortunate as well, because we all know the injury history with Holani. It's probably the reason. I think we all agree he was a draftable running back coming out of Boise State if he hadn't had the injury issues there. So that kind of sucks. But Cam Akers, still just 26 years old, which is remarkable. Feels like he's been around, or feels like it's been forever ago that he was a guy coming up with the Rams before Kyron Williams, guy that I really liked coming out. He's bounced around a lot since then. Played for the Minnesota Vikings most recently. Mookie, is this a move that has more to do with they like him as a running back, or might he, and I know this gets overblown sometimes, but might he provide some insight into what we're going to see from the Vikings on Sunday?
I think the only I think the only insight he could provide with regards to this weekend's matchup is, hey, this offense really sucks when Sam Darnold isn't running it right now.
We could provide that insight.
Yeah, but it sucks for Cam Akers, because you talk about Holani's injury history. Cam Akers' injury history is why at 26 years old, he is a journeyman running back, because he's torn his Achilles twice.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe he did it in back-to-back years, the most recent one coming in 2023. So the fact that he's even still in the league after 2 Achilles ruptures as a running back is remarkable in itself. So I think he's just going to take some snaps that Holani otherwise would have gotten. The dynamic of the running back room has changed a little bit based on the increase of Kenneth Walker snaps, I believe, over the last couple of weeks, where now there is more of a hierarchy to running back 1 through running back 3. Instead of this 1A, 1B thing where Walker's kind of the starter, but Charbonnet is getting 10 and 11 carries a game, it's now Walker's the main guy. Charbonnet is the capable backup who can start in a pinch. And then whoever's the third running back, you're in for garbage time, or you're in for like maybe 2-minute drill situation things. So with Akers, I think he's just going to take the snaps that Holani otherwise would have taken, which isn't a whole lot. But one difference is you're going to lose the special team snaps with Holani. You're losing another kick returner. I mean, this is the second time they've lost a kick returner. Tariq is still on IR. So I don't think that we're going to see Akers play on special teams, but it's nice to have like a familiar face at running back. We know that Akers tortured the Seahawks as a rookie, I believe, got a couple of touchdowns in that playoff game. But it all kind of went downhill for him after those injuries. So yeah, I'm not thinking this is a huge deal. It is just like to kind of hold the fort for the next few weeks. There's no doubt in my mind that if Jacardier Wright didn't get hurt, they would have just signed Wright to the active roster. Because Wright, I think, was somebody, and given his preseason familiarity, he's somebody I think the Seahawks like. I know Myles Gaskin is on the practice squad, but I think Gaskin is kind of like a whatever move. I mean, he hasn't had the injury history that Akers has had, but Akers might have some familiarity with this offense too, given his time with the Rams and with Minnesota as well. So, some somewhat similar schemes. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how often he's even going to play the next couple of weeks, because I think that Okada's injury doesn't sound as serious as it could have been, maybe closer to the Derek Hall level of injury absence, if not shorter than that. Obviously, Chaz Surratt's gone for at least a month, and I don't think he'll be back this regular season. And then with Holani, I don't think he was listed as a participant today. So maybe he misses a few weeks and Akers just takes that role.
Yeah. While we're on the subject of injuries, a couple of things worth mentioning as well. Patrick O'Connell elevated to the 53-man and signed there. He ran out of his elevations, and man, he played well against the Titans this last weekend. And then Shaq Griffin elevated to the 53 as well to take the roster spot essentially of Darian Kendrick, who was claimed by the Rams again today after the Seahawks released him yesterday. A lot of people were expecting that, and that's exactly what happened. Another cool piece of injury news today. And let's go back around in opposite order this way, because this is something where I have, now that they have opened the practice window for Riley Mills, the rookie 5th-round pick out of Notre Dame, defensive lineman. I had said, I can't remember if we talked about it on this show, but I've said on my show many times, it's getting late enough in the year now that my preference would have been, look, let's just essentially redshirt him. Let's not activate him this year. Toll that contract. You still get him under contract for 4 years, and let's have him be 100% healthy next year. Because what's the value in bringing a guy back if he's only going to be able to contribute the last week or two of the year? I've come around on this. Jaron Reed's out. That defensive line, I think, is thin and could use a little bit more juice. We're going to talk about that pass rush by committee here in a minute. The fact that they were able to open his window today, if they can get him up to speed with 4 games left in the season, let's say, as a rotational guy, get an idea, get a look at what he can be. So when you go into the offseason, you kind of know a little bit more clearly what your needs are up front, but also he might just be able to give them something. Mookie, how do you feel about Riley Mills coming back?
Yeah, this is interesting because I thought that they would have just given him the NFL equivalent of a medical red shirt so that his contract would toll, and then he basically still be under the same 4 years of team control, more or less. And instead, with this Jaron Reed injury, I mean, he had a surgery on his wrist, so even though he's not expected to miss the rest of the season, by the time he's eligible to come off the IR list, it'd be next week or the week after. And there's no guarantee that as soon as you're off of IR, you're going to play right away. And as you said, the defensive line on that interior is quite thin, and they are playing Murphy and Williams. I mean, Byron Murphy played a ton of snaps, relatively speaking, in this Titans game. And against better offenses, you worry, especially given Seattle's troubles with the hurry up and more up-tempo offenses, that they don't tire out. And then you suddenly don't have a lot of guys who are capable of replacing Murphy or Williams when they need a breather. So Riley Mills is somebody whom I believe, if he hadn't torn his ACL in college, wouldn't be a Seahawk because he would have been drafted at least a round or 2 earlier.
Right.
He was that good at Notre Dame. And I think that's the expectation should still be low as far as what he can contribute this season. But there is still that chance, it seems. This is in line with the timeline that they kind of mentioned a few months back, that realistically, well, not even a few months back at the draft, that he's not going to be available these first few months of the year. But once we get to the second half of the season, then we get to see, can he ramp up? Can he play? And he could be kind of that secret, I don't want to say secret weapon, but kind of that added depth, a guy who can penetrate the backfield, somebody who can push a pocket around. I think that Riley Mills has great potential in this defense, even if not this year, maybe a few years down the line. But if they can just get another body, it's like instead of having a street free agent, you got somebody that you were maybe going to stash for the year. And now you're kind of, if he's ahead of schedule or at least on schedule, he can be a decent piece on your defensive line rotation in this home stretch. They just need bodies. I mean, they're not going a week since the bye without somebody going on injured reserve. And the defense is taking a much greater hit than the offense. So I think any defensive line depth would be appreciated. And while they don't play the same position, like we're not going to get Jonathan Hankins back this season. Probably never. So just having another body just to be in that rotation with Murphy and Williams and Reed when they come back, and I guess Mike Morris too. I think that's very, very helpful for them.
Let's move on to the next thing on our agenda. We are going to talk about contract extensions. Now, this has been a topic of conversation, stretching back over the entire offseason, because there were some guys entering into the last year of their rookie deals this year that were eligible for extensions. And we weren't quite sure until we got closer to the season what the future held for, or how the team viewed Kenneth Walker, Tariq Woolen, right? Boye Mafe. Those are the 3 main guys. It doesn't seem like any of those players that the team engaged in contract talks with all 3 of them. They were all asked directly about it in training camp, and they all said, nope, no conversations yet. And now, there's some level of disagreement among most people about whether those guys deserve extensions or not. However, Kobe Bryant, we know they did approach him before the season with an extension offer. He rejected it, bet on himself. He might have been kind of smart in doing that. He might be making himself some money playing really well. Brandon, if I were to ask you, who's the next guy that you think gets an extension? Because the Seahawks have been known under John Schneider to do some of these deals kind of late in the year, right? They still have some cap space. They could do one of those deals right now if they could convince a player to do it. Who do you think is next?
I actually think that I'd go with a little bit of surprise here potentially, and that's going to be Kenneth Walker. I number one, you're down your 4th and 5th round pick, which would be kind of one of those magical spots we'd like to go get a running back in this draft. And that means that those other picks in this draft are probably going to have to go to other positions. Maybe not. Maybe you can go get another running back on top of it. But I've not seen enough from Charbonnet. And I think I've gotten well beyond a sample size at this point to determine whether or not this guy could be RB1. You let Walker go, he will be RB1. McIntosh is coming off the ACL. We don't know where he's going to be at. Hololani, you mentioned, has an injury history going back to Boise State. And so, you have just, to me, a little bit of a question here at this position moving forward. And I think we're starting to see with Walker down some of the home stretch of this season, actual holes being opened up in the game. There was if you have a chance, listen to that all access tape that came out today from the game, where you got the offensive line coach talking inside such a great moment. And he's like, they're too wide. They're wide now. We got to hammer them inside. And it's exactly like they're going wide, trying to take care of Walker. Then you can come back into those A and B gap runs with him. And now once he actually gets a hole for the freaking seemingly first time 2 years, look what he can do to exploit it. And I don't think Charbonnet can do that kind of stuff to exploit. I don't think the guy that we're going to go draft is going to be able to go exploit those kind of things the same way. So this is a guy I would approach. This is a guy that maybe I'm even considering dangling a franchise tag over the top of, considering, because I'm starting to work on a little bit of a theory here on how we can potentially be manipulating the compensatory system in this situation with a couple of moves.
Bryce, let me stay on that just for a second, and we'll talk about some more contract extensions. The last couple of weeks, we've seen Walker get a couple of touches in the pass game, which is something I've been pounding the table for all year, right? Like, get him in space. From what you can see, have those been checkdowns, or are there some indications that they're scheming that and maybe working him into the game plan a little bit that way?
I think that's starting to take place now. And the prime example of that would be what I call like almost like a swing screen that you had where him and Robbie Utes both went out to the flat in the same direction. And you saw Darnold kind of look downfield and then just check it right off to Walker. I think they're starting to understand that they can use Walker as a receiver out of this. And that doesn't mean, line him out, and make him run true receiver routes, but get him in situations where you kind of slip him out late and the linebackers are so worried about where's JSN and where's Cooper Kupp sitting down and where's AJ Barner that now you can get him in space. And you see that with some of these checkdowns. And when you get Ken Walker in space around guys, around one defender, he can make that first guy miss initially and then take off and get you 5 or 6, 7 yards. And I think to the point in this last game with Tennessee, there were a couple points where Sam got to that check down to Ken, and Ken gave them a better third down or even converted the third down rather than him trying to force that ball into a tighter window down the field. And I think Kubiak's now understanding he can use Ken Walker out in the flat. And I think part of it too is Ken's getting more opportunities now. He's not splitting as much 50-50 with Charbonnet. And I think you're starting to see that, hey, look, this guy can do all the things we need to do in this offense. And to Brandon's point earlier as well, like, you could see that Seattle's like, okay, to the point of the all access, they're widening out because we're running outside zone and they think we're going to go. And now let's run man duo inside. And there are a couple runs in there where you see Ken's vision and track is now starting to align with what the offensive line is actually giving him and giving him those opportunities. And he's hitting it. And when he hits it, he's the fastest back through the hole. He's one of the fastest backs in the NFL once he gets and sees the hole. I tend to agree in some, in a lot of respects with what Brandon just said. I would have said Ken Walker if you'd asked me the question. I think he's probably the guy that might get that extension. I don't think it'll break the bank, but I think it'll be a 2-year or maybe it's a franchise tag kind of a thing, and you're going to pay him some decent money. But he is a RB1, and I agree. Charbonnet hasn't proved that he can be that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if they had their full assortment of draft picks, I might feel differently about it. But with just those 4 and just 3 in the first 3 rounds, that'd be a real tough sell value-wise to take a running back with one of those picks. And I do think that Walker looks more like what they had hoped he would look like. He's running between the tackles more, to your point. Mookie, is there anyone we haven't mentioned yet that you think might be the next step to get an extension?
I wanted to just be a little bit of a rascal and bring up Tariq Woolen, because Woolen looked like, those first few weeks, can we trade him? And now it's kind of, we're kind of going back to maybe this system of Witherspoon and Job are the starters, but Reek is essentially playing starter snaps. I think that works very well. And for all the, to me, rightful concerns about Woolen's penalty issues, ever since which game did he get the concussion? Was it the Tampa Bay game? So he missed the Jacksonville game, came back for the Houston game. So Houston, Washington, Arizona, Rams, and then Tennessee. He's played 5 games. The only penalty that he has committed, I believe, was a taunting penalty because he stood over a guy. And it's a penalty. I can't stand that they call it a penalty, but as opposed to the undisciplined penalties where he's not looking for the ball and committing a silly or getting beat off the snap because he's got a lapse in concentration, he's having to commit a blatant PI like he did in the first Arizona game. We're not seeing that. He has been airtight in coverage. He's tackling better, which I know is another point of contention among Seahawks fans with Reek. So now the problem with the argument for keeping Reek, if I could go against myself, is Reek has shown himself to be a starting caliber corner, as in 100% of the snap starting caliber. And in that situation, would Seattle be willing to pay top dollar or close to top dollar, like top 10 cornerback money, for somebody who might command even greater money on the market in the free agent market for a cornerback needy team? So that'd be kind of the one thing there. I think the easiest answer as far as the 2022 class and who would be extension eligible, so I'm not going to count his option right now, would be them extending Charles Cross. I mean, I think that they are obliged to. Like, you have already extended Lucas. You've got Cross. You've got your bookend tackles. And they have had no continuity at that position for an eternity. The last time they had it was Walton Locklear. Because even when Okung was here for the whole of his rookie contract, consistently had new people at right tackle. And then I think when Dwayne Brown came here and then he got extended, I guess the continuity was Jermaine Ifedi, except that I think we kind of pushed the continuity bit a little too long with Ifedi. So with Cross and Lucas, those are
a lot of things a little too long with Ifedi.
well, with him, he started too far back and too far early. But yeah, I have a sense
and he
that
held.
I have a sense that I don't rule out Walker getting an extension, but I think it would have to be a 1-year prove-it deal. And if I want to be a semi-hot take person, I do not think it's a lock Charbonnet on this roster next year. I think he's an all right back, but he's imminently replaceable. But with Walker, has he been healthy? Yes. The only time he's been on the injury report is a glute injury, which is a pain in the butt, but he played the game. And he's getting more of a workload, and he's been fine. He hasn't missed a game this season. He's got a shot to play every game for the first time in his career. So we've passed step 1. He's been healthy. Step 2, he's getting more involved with carries. Now step 3, getting him more involved as a receiving back. And like Bryce said, no, he doesn't have to run. He's not McCaffrey. He's not Jahmyr Gibbs. But as a check down option, as a guy who can do screen passes that are not like the one that lost 5 yards the other day, but like one with Robbie Utes as the lead blocker, when teams are so terrified of JSN and then Shaheed as the season goes on, getting beat down the field, that's going to open up underneath space. And that's exactly where a yards after catch guy like Kenneth Walker can be an instant impact player. So I think Kubiak's starting to figure that out. And there might be a fighting chance with Walker as opposed to, there's no way that he's going to be retained.
It does kind of create a fast.
Hey, Dan,
yeah.
Sorry, real quick. I just want to ask Mookie on this. Mookie, just 2 things. Would you be, if you're in the general manager seat, would you feel comfortable giving Tariq Woolen a 3-year deal at $16 million? Because he's getting bare minimum above what Shaquille Griffin got in free agency 4 years ago to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, absolutely. The thing with the top cornerback market right now is that it'd be like the J.C. Horn, Pat Surtain contracts. And I don't think Seattle will give Woolen that type of deal. And
well, that's what I'm asking you. I'm asking you from Seattle's perspective, not on the open market, but looking at it, just trying to pin you down. Because I know you mentioned you think he could, but I want to know if you would, from your perspective, think that that's a smart deal.
I think it would be a smart deal. And because
you trust he's going to keep the engine up.
Yeah, he basically be a starter without being officially listed as a starter. And if Josh Jobe slips up or has some sort of regression, guess who's back in the starting lineup? So, I mean, I think that Woolen, as long as he just keeps his head on straight, keeps playing like this, Seattle will definitely entertain keeping him around because you don't want to tweak this cornerback room too much. They don't have that level of depth beyond Witherspoon and Jobe if you move on from Woolen.
I got to follow up on this. Okay, go ahead, Brandon.
My bad. Just there's no way we're going to be able to get with a 1-year deal with Walker unless we're franchising him, because people are going to look at not only things like the PFF scores, but also the yards before contact throughout the last 3 years here in this offense, along with some of the rudimentary offensive approaches that have been applied for a long period of time here, along with the bad run blocking. And they're going to do some advanced math on this mofo. and they're going to come out of it being willing to give him a contract. And that's why I do come to that being a little bit of, I think you're going to have to, like, on that one, it'll be an S or get off the pot kind of situation, I think, a little bit, because there will be teams that are smartly coming to call in.
Do you think he's done enough to warrant like a James Cook type contract on the open market?
I think there's a potential when you consider the fact of the age and how bad a job we've done of creating more production for him because of all of those things I just mentioned.
Yeah. It's fascinating because when, I'm always one of those that's looking ahead to 26, 27, 28 constantly. I know everyone at the table here is. And up until the last couple of weeks, some of those decisions felt like they were going to be a little easier because I didn't think there was any chance they would, make a significant offer to Tariq Woolen or Kenneth Walker because of some of the issues we've talked about ad nauseum. But they've both worked their way back into potentially the plan. Talked to Greg Bell last week, and he said, yeah, they feel better about those guys now than they did before. So now some of those other decisions do become trickier, right? Because as much as I push back a lot of times when fans say, well, we can't afford to keep everybody, I usually say, yeah, you can. You reach a certain point where you can't, if it's just sheer volume, right? And this will be like with the cornerback position. It's Josh Jobe and Tariq Woolen are both going to be done after this year contractually. And so can you bring them both back? How much has Josh Jobe done to advance his market as a free agent? Is someone going to be willing to give him a long-term deal or give him starter money? If so, you can't bring them both back probably at that position. And so maybe it's a case where, you try to get out ahead of it, which John Schneider likes to do, make offers to these guys before free agency. And if one of them, if Tariq Woolen is dead set on hitting the market because he thinks he can get a 5-year, $100 million deal, and Josh Jobe says, yeah, I'll take your 3-year, $30 million deal, that might kind of make their decision for him. And then you get to a guy like Kobe Bryant. Like, where are we at with Kobe? Bryce, I know you've been a big fan of him for a while, but is he working his way up into that 11, 12, $13 million? Right? Is he getting that top end of the safety market? Is he working his way up into that? Or is he going to be kind of lumped down in that next tier where salaries at that position have kind of normalized over the last few years and you can get some good value there? Where do we stand on Kobe?
It's interesting with Kobe because the reason I say that is Kobe not having Julian Love this year and playing as well as he has definitely risen and pushed his market up. Because last year, I think when he stepped in for Rayshon Jenkins, a lot of us might have said, hey, you know what, Kobe's playing well, but Julian Love is playing exceptionally well, and he's kind of getting that byproduct of a feed off of that situation. This year, he's done a lot of it on his own with a rotating door. It's been Ty Okada, now it's DeAnthony Bell, and maybe it's even Quandre Diggs, who knows. I think Kobe's pushed himself up into that conversation of being one of those guys that, is in that, 11, the Kyle Duggars around 11. I'm just looking at over the cap right now. You've got Hufanga, who's a 13, average per year kind of guy. That's kind of you got, because if you look at the top end of that safety market, he's nowhere near the, the Kyle Hamilton, Kirby Joseph, Antonio Winfield Jr. He's kind of more in that middle bracket there. And I think it could be a situation with Seattle when you talk about, like what Brandon said about Kenneth Walker. You're going to have to pay Kenneth Walker decent money to stay here, because I think, to Brandon's point, you're going to see teams really project out what he can do in a proper offense and the type of player he is. It could be a situation where you're deciding between, do you pay Kobe Bryant or do you pay Tariq Woolen? And which one do you trust more to continue playing well in that situation? Because is it easier to go find a safety for Mike McDonald, or is it easier to go find a corner to plug and play opposite Jobe and Spoon? And Jobe's going to come probably a bit cheaper than Tariq Woolen. Do you want to have Kobe Bryant in that back end? And I think the other thing they're going to look at is Kobe, if he prices himself out, yeah, we're comfortable with Ty Okada as our other safety back there right now and draft another kid. Like, it's going to be an interesting conversation. I think it comes down to whether you want to keep Tariq Woolen or Kobe Bryant in the offseason.
Yeah, I think I have a hunch that if they want to bring Reek back and they don't get a deal done before free agency, once he gets out there, I mean, some team's going to pay for those trades. Some team's going to pay him a contract that's going to make a lot of Seahawks fans go, holy shit, I didn't think he was going to get that. And that's why I think that would have to be done before free agency. But you might be able to bring back, like you're saying, Kobe and Jobe combined for close to an average annual value of what Reek might make if somebody decides to really go for it and pay him a long-term contract. So
Can
we'll see.
And just if we can stay on this a little longer, I'd like to know from both you and Bryson on this with the same kind of question posed to Mookie in regards to Reek. If it's going $16 million for a multi-year deal, with the fact that we've seen some up and down as far as how that engine revs, would you guys feel confident in giving that contract out that this engine, because if that engine's going out on us to the point, I can't sign Job at the same time. I'm really worried from my perspective on this. And so if you guys have confidence, it'll give me some confidence. If we've got it collectively, I'm on a little bit of an island with this.
I personally, I think it only gets done if, like we've seen so many others do, right? Some of these contracts are going to be a real test of the Seahawks culture. If he wants to be here bad enough to get a deal done before free agency, I think that's the only way it happens. Because I think if he hits the market, someone's going to pay him a number that the Seahawks aren't going to be comfortable with, that none of us would be comfortable with, that we would all criticize. And honestly, that's how the Seahawks work. Like they don't just like play it by ear. They'll have an exact number that they're comfortable with bringing him back. They won't mess around with him. They'll present that exact number to him. And if he wants to test the market, then he's probably gone.
I am more in Brandon's camp when it comes to Reek, in the sense of he has been so up and down and so inconsistent for me. And there's been so many questions. And yes, he's playing well right now, and that's fantastic. And it's
playing great.
It's great, and it's good for the team. But to give the kind of money we're talking about, like if he's gonna go and hit that, potentially that open market, or where he may think he may be valued, I don't trust him to actually perform game in and game out with that money on the books. And I'd rather see, okay, go Witherspoon, go Job, maybe it's Nehemiah Pritchett gets some more reps because I do really like him, and then you draft somebody, or you pick up another veteran in free agency, someone like that fills in the back end. I think that's a way Mike Macdonald is okay doing that, because the chatter that was going around during the trade deadline was very much that they were fine moving off of Tariq Woolen if they could get something. And I think that speaks volumes too. And that's the thing. Like, if this is a guy that you trust and he's just in a bad slump for a little bit, you're not having those discussions at the trade deadline about moving off that player. But the fact that got so much smoke and so much steam going into that, even prior to that, like, we were coming out of the first game of the regular season and that started being a conversational topic.
Mm-hmm.
That, I think, kind of leads you to think where the organization's heading of, like, it's great that Reek's playing well for us, but we have other things that are priorities we kind of want to take care of before we look at Tariq Woolen again. And so if I'm sitting there as a GM, I'm probably letting Reek test the market. I'm probably looking at Kobe Bryant. I'm probably looking at Kenneth Walker and going, those are higher on my priority list, and Josh Jobe, than Tariq Woolen is, just because I know with them the level of play I'm going to get, and I'm not questioning whether or not they're checking in or out.
Yeah. And here's why they can't pay them all even if they want to. Because I've felt for a while, and we talked a lot about this on the last show leading into the trade deadline, I think they're going to want to add a dude this next offseason. And that leads me to a conversation a little farther down on our agenda, but I think it works here. Mookie, we'll start with you. This pass rush by committee thing that we've seen, it's working. Like they're pressuring quarterbacks consistently. I don't know if you guys have seen the Havoc stats, right? The Havoc metric, where you combine pressures and forced fumbles and sacks and all those kind of chaotic and havoc inducing stats. And the Seahawks are number one at like almost half of their snaps, like 48%. They're causing some sort of havoc. Like, it's working. And yet we know that before the trade deadline, they went out and looked for, I heard the term closer, I heard the term finisher. And while Mike Macdonald's never had one of those guys, and he's made it work even in Baltimore, it doesn't mean he doesn't want one. Mookie, do you think that they're gonna want to manage these extensions in such a way so they can have some flexibility in the offseason to either trade for or sign a blue chip type player, and specifically in the pass rush? Let's just talk about Max Crosby. I mean, let's not beat around the bush.
Yes. Sign or trade for a blue chip edge rusher. Yeah. So you notice in our previous topic, we did not bring up Boye Mafe one time, because I think we all believe that it's a
trying to keep the show positive.
Yeah, it is a fork. I am positive that he's not going to be on this team next year. And he was also somebody.
Hold on.
He was also somebody who was very, very close to getting dealt at the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, there was a trade pretty much agreed to with Kansas City to send Mafe to the Chiefs, but I think that must have been contingent on getting a big time player back. And if one thing didn't happen, the other thing wasn't going to happen. So, as well as they have performed this year, we also have to acknowledge that it's not exactly that's two of their key players are not exactly three, really, are not the youngest people in the world. You know, DeMarcus Lawrence is having to me a kind of a renaissance season. He's having a career resurgence. He's providing even more pass rush than I thought, instead of just being this really good run defender. But he is in his 30s, and so is Big Cats, even though Big Cat seems to be aging like fine wine. And then Jaron Reed is also somebody in his 30s. Now, when you isolate to the edge rusher positions only, Derek Hall has played way better than his 1 sack on the season suggests. I mean, he had 8 sacks or 8.5 last year. And this year, I think he's been fantastic. He's just been unfortunate in terms of uncalled holding penalties or called holding penalties that prevent him from getting sacks. He's had opportunities that just haven't been completed. But ultimately, neither he nor Mafe I would consider to be a truly elite closing type of edge rusher, whereas Max Crosby clearly is. Micah Parsons is, and we all met in Seattle talking and salivating at the thought of bringing in Micah Parsons. And I tell you what, Micah, if you took Micah off of the Packers now, they might not be in a playoff spot because he's been that good for them.
They might not be with him.
Yeah, they barely are with him. But it ain't because of the defense, that's for sure. So I think that they are going to look for, and should, to me, look for a big-time edge rusher this offseason. I know some people are saying in the comments, no, not Myles Garrett. I think Myles is there to stay in Cleveland, and they're going to try and build and give it one more go. And he signed the contract, man. He's not, I mean, it's not like he was absolutely forced to stay in Cleveland and sign. But yeah, I think that would be the one thing. That would be for Mike Macdonald. This is his Moby Dick moment as Captain Ahab. He's got so many pieces that he has set for years to come, but that one game-changing edge rusher is something that he didn't even have in Baltimore. Think about in Baltimore, Kyle Van Noy went from practice squad to the team leader in sacks, and he kind of revived Jadeveon Clowney to a career year in terms of sacks as well. But he didn't have that guy who was getting 15 or 16 sacks. He didn't have a Myles Garrett or Nick Bonito, Max Crosby, Brian Burns type of guy. I think if he has that only adds more havoc to the Seahawks defense. And if you want to use another example from more recent times for the Seahawks, you know what undid them in 2012 in the playoff game against Atlanta? You lose Chris Clemens. Bruce Irvin is way too raw as a strict edge rusher. You don't have another dude on that team who can close. So while Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill didn't have the gaudy stats in terms of sack productivity, how did they end up getting to the Super Bowl? They had closers. Cliff Averill might not have gotten the sack on Colin Kaepernick that led to the tip, but he certainly got the pressure that led to it anyway. And how many times did Bennett and Averill come up with clutch sacks after clutch sack, in addition to Clemens still being on the team as a guy consistently getting double digits? So they need that extra juice, I think, up front to really go to that next level in terms of what they can already do on the defensive line. They've got the interior set long-term with Byron Murphy, but out on the edge, like Chenna, Mafe, and Hall collectively are very good. Individually, there's no elite rusher there.
Brandon, let me ask you this, because I know you're very in touch with, how the scheme works, and you scout as hard as anyone that does what we do as well. We talked a lot leading up to the deadline about all the usual suspects, right? And we know that they tried to get Crosby. I think the Crosby availability question really is tied to, and we'll know in about 2 months, are they going to rebuild down there or not? And if they do want to tear it down, I think that problem might take care of itself, because I think Max Crosby might go to John Spytek's office and say, I want out. But I want to ask you specifically about Trey Hendrickson, because he will be available. We know this. He is going to be a free agent. And I got different answers leading up to the deadline and even in the preseason when it looked like they might move him about whether he would fit in this defense. Probably going to be 32 years old at some point next year. Does he? Would he?
I would say no. He's a hand in the dirt guy from my perspective of it. There's just guys that they launch with better quickness when they go from low to high. And when you're coming as a stand-up guy from kind of what I'd, for lack of a better term, high to low, it's a different type of explosiveness. A Von Miller is a high to low guy, right? He can get that quickness going and get down to a dip in the bend. And that's a unique skill. And different edge rushers, different sizes, different types in the way they attack. So there are those edge rushers that can be, then Michael Strahan was a low to high guy. I'm going to get up into you with my leverage. I win my leverage by being off at times by being low and also not being widened out into a wide 9. I get to be more into like a 7 tech where you get me a little bit closer in now and I can get into my pass rush moves quicker versus coming off the edge, which is going to be more reliant on me being speed to power, explosive stuff. And that is the type of stuff they do with their edge rushers here. That's what Derek Hall is doing a lot of. That's what DeMarcus Lawrence is doing a lot of. We're going to get you out real wide and then just send you downhill into a bull rush time and time again. It's also why you tend to see in Seattle that, we're really high in pressures, but if you notice, we're also slow to create the pressure. It's not a quick bake thing. And that's where I think Mookie's points about getting an edge rusher in here, I would add to all of that it's so important. That's why you target actually got to be like Max down there, because he's just a different gear to me. Younger player, a guy that can do this stuff. The kind of guy that's really going to cause dedication of a chip blocker. And I think that this is the part that gets Mike infatuated, which is that I have an edge rusher now who you are required to provide secondary help to. And I bring my stack boxes and simulated pressures up on you, and you draw those double teams to this guy, and I'm dropping from here, and I'm bringing from there. And boy, you could create a lot of havoc.
Yeah, the time to pressure numbers are interesting. It does speak to the coverage on the back end that some of those first reads aren't there. It's getting them time to get there. Bryce, can you win in January with this type of a pass rush where kind of everyone's chipping in equally? It's team effort. You're playing better teams with better offensive linemen, better quarterbacks, better play callers. Can you win? Can you go deep into January with that kind of approach?
You can. I just it's hard because if for whatever reason they don't hit that day and they're not getting the pressure, your whole defensive philosophy can kind of exactly. The Tampa Bay game's a prime example. And even to some extent, yes, they were pressuring Stafford and such in that Rams game. I think they got home once or twice in that game.
Once. Yeah.
But Stafford seemed extra jittery. But again, if they're playing again, they might have different protections. It's hard because when you have a dude that you can count on to influence, like Brandon's saying, you want to slide your protection this way. Now we've evened up on this side, and that gives some guys some extra ability, that extra second maybe to win, or that extra one-on-one rep to win when they're maybe not a guy that can do it on play in, play out basis. It can be done. It's just the chances of it being as successful as having an actual guy on your group is less likely. I would say the last unit I could really think of, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, because I may have missed one, is kind of those New York Jet defensive line groups when they had Tuck and Umanura and Michael Strahan that one year they knocked out the Patriots, where they were such a good collective group. They didn't really have anybody that was stood out, and they were so good at affecting the pocket that way, and they were good at getting home. Right now, your big guys at getting home are Byron Murphy, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Leo. Hall's got to start getting home. He's getting there. He's got to start getting home. And Maffei's got to start getting home more frequently than what they are to really make this work if you're going to take this philosophy, which you do now have to, into the postseason.
Might make things tougher in January, but it's probably enough to beat Max Brosmer on Sunday, I would imagine.
Hopefully.
Big old. He's got
God
a nice
help
arm.
us if not.
He's
Backup
got a nice
QB
arm, but...
PTSD from the Pete Carroll era.
All right, let's talk about Sam Darnold, because the last time that we convened the syndicate, everything was rosy, and then Los Angeles happened, and the 4 interceptions, and everyone's giving him credit for a bounce back game on Sunday, but there were at least 3 throws that I can think of that easily could have been intercepted that kind of made you clinch up a little bit. Bryce, I'll start with you again, and sorry, Mookie, and we'll kind of, and then we'll zigzag, and I'll go back down to Mookie because I know I skipped over you. But just, the quarterback coach and all that, did you see enough Sunday to give you confidence that what happened against the LA Rams wasn't going to linger with him? Did you feel like it was a good enough bounce back performance for him?
Oh yeah, it was a good enough bounce back performance because I think we saw Sam do some things he hasn't really done this year, which is go to his checkdowns and swing the ball out to the Ken Walkers and stuff. And even at some points, he had I believe the one sack where he potentially, earlier might have tried to fit that into a window. He was strategically aggressive, which is what I kind of like to see. Like he took his shots when they were there. There was still obviously some timing issues with Shaheed. There was one opportunity that they had where pretty sure if Shaheed gets the ball, he might score on it.
That deep in breaker.
Yeah, but there were still some things where you look and it's still fixable in film where he's late to throwing an out route that could have been picked. And then he has the shot play that he tried to take to Shaheed where, yeah, there's probably another route to go to. And I got what he was looking at because you can see the one short field safety sitting low and he's trying to lay it up over top of that guy. But that's the thing where it's like, hey, Arroyo's open on the out. Throw the ball to Arroyo. He's already open. You don't need to take that shot. So there's enough to say that I feel comfortable with Sam. I don't think it's like, when I look at the Rams game, I think, and me and Brandon have talked about this. There was so much from Sam making some poor decisions, play calling just being kind of all over the place, the O-line giving up pressure after pressure in a lot of situations that it was just a chaotic environment to begin with. And most quarterbacks might have struggled, to that point. I think what we saw from Sam in that bounce back was no turnovers. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing is that's a boost of confidence for him is no turnovers. He played a relatively clean game and they got back to what they do well, which is run the ball and not ask him to throw the ball more than 28 times in a game.
Mookie, I recall some of the tweeting you were doing during the Rams game. And it led me to, I think one of you is using the pumpkin reference in when we're bouncing ideas back and forth about what we want to talk about tonight. During that Rams game, and even in the hours that followed as you're looking back on it and everything else, was there a sense that you had that maybe he just turned into a pumpkin, that the Cinderella story is over, that that's more of who he is, and he was just avoiding a game like that? Or do you still feel like he's going to defeat that demon at some point, maybe even as early as week 16, and that was just kind of a step in his growth? Like, where are you on Sam Darnold today versus the last time we talked 2 days ago or 2 weeks ago?
So this is a very extreme example because he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But Peyton Manning had a really difficult time solving the then San Diego Chargers defense. Remember there was that one game he threw 6 picks? And not pick 6, threw 6 interceptions. And one of them was like this amazing one-handed diving grab by Antonio Cromartie. And then there was another year where he threw like 4 interceptions against the Chargers as well. They got knocked out by them a couple of times in the playoffs, and he wasn't outstanding in those games. There are some certain teams or maybe certain defenses that even the absolute best quarterbacks of the league of their generation have a hard time solving. I think through 3 games, Sam Darnold, I think, struggles against this Chris Shula defense. And some of this is also on Kubiak. And we'll see how he adjusts in week 16. But we know how much Darnold loves attacking the middle of the field. And it is a breath of fresh air to Seahawks fans, given the utter trepidation and borderline refusal to do this for the last decade or so. Mm-hmm. But they were pretty much daring Darnold. You're going to go take the boundary shots. We're going to take away the middle of the field. And it junked the offense up so badly. And I think the one play that really irked me the most with Darnold out of all the plays against the Rams was that jump pass interception on 3rd and 3. You were in field goal range. Yeah. And it was still a 9-point game at the time, right? Or what was the score? Because they lost by 2. So yeah, it was a 9-point game. You get a field goal there, like a throwaway, even taking a sack, you're still in Myers' field goal range. But you end up turning the ball over, and it ends up as another 0-point possession. So I think they do get in his head a bit with some of the coverage disguises. They just change coverage so drastically post-snap, and I think it's affected Darnold in the past. But in the longer term, I still think he is baseline a good quarterback who can often play great. I don't think he was great against the Titans, but I think he was good enough. I will cut him slack for that pass that appeared to be nearly picked on that A.J. Barner throw in the end zone because they got tipped at the line. Without the tip, I actually think Barner does catch it and score a touchdown, but also he can pump fake that and get a few yards running. Like he's not immobile. he can absolutely scramble for a
Yeah,
few
I was
yards there.
scream and run on that play. I
Yeah.
don't think he would have scored, but
Yeah.
he would have gotten awfully close. But it wasn't. Was it goal to go? They still could have got a first down, right?
It was
Or was
goal
it
to
goal
go.
okay.
So it was like it was
Okay.
second and goal, but it could have been like third and goal at the 3, at very
Right.
least. And yeah, you can
Yeah.
use a pump fake to at least draw a defender away, knowing that he doesn't exactly have the wheels to walk in untouched. I think the out route throw, it was not open to even to begin with. So it's just a play that shouldn't. He predetermined a throw to Walker that was never there in the first place. But we're kind of real nitpicky when that's been happening so infrequently throughout the season. Even with all the interceptions he's thrown, there have been quite a few that have been unlucky. Have there been bad reads? Absolutely. But I can tolerate his interception count if he's producing at such a tremendous level otherwise. And that's what he's been doing. Now, the real test for him will be against, I don't even think about this Vikings game because, yes, Brian Flores is a very, very good defensive coordinator. But I think anybody watching this Minnesota defense this year, they would be lying to themselves if they think they're even 1/5 as good as they were last year. But that Rams rematch is going to mean so much, I think, for the Seahawks in terms of staying alive in the division race, potentially taking first place in the division if it comes down to that. And it's like a what have you learned situation from the first matchup because you're going to be at home this time. In the absolute most fairness to Darnold, those other games that he's played against the Rams, one in LA, another one in LA, and another one sort of neutral sites in Arizona because of the wildfires. So this would be his first time at home against that Rams defense. And maybe there could be a difference to be had there. But I'm not totally worried about Darnold just yet. There are some habits that are kind of creeping back in that make me a little nervous. But otherwise, like I think that he's going to be fine for the rest of the season. I don't think there's going to be an unraveling of Sam whatsoever. And even for quarterbacks who are playing very well, they're allowed to have a bad game. It's just that his bad game came against the worst possible team to have a bad game against.
Yeah. Brandon, let me ask you this then. I think he's going to face an interesting collection of defenses over the next 3 weeks. I mean, just, to your point, Mookie, but Brian Flores is one of the more respected defensive minds out there. The next week they face Raheem Morris, a guy who has a long history with Sean McVay. He might be getting a little intel there from behind closed doors. And then they face the Colts, whose defenses looked really good at times this year. Clearly, those guys, 3 very good defensive coordinators over the next 3 weeks, are going to be watching that Rams tape and presumably maybe trying to do some of the same things to him. What do you need to see over the next 3 weeks, Brandon, to convince you that Sam will be ready week 16 for a different outcome against the Rams?
I've already seen it. I think I stand and feel like I'm as much in place of the folks that are out in this hemisphere is feeling like some of the criticism somewhat fair. I think, having the worst game of the season is fair, but I think that Kubiak got none blame coming off the back of that. And, you're running double chip, giving him no security blankets. And then you've got 3 guys running into 7. And then there's a quick pressure on Sam. What do you want him to do here in a game where you're, needing to get some points? It's not to let him off the hook of everything, but look at the season that he's about to have here. I'm not trying to take this on a tangent, Dan, but this is a little bit of a pet peeve from mine in looking at this season and the way that people look at the quarterback position. And he's on pace to put up one of the all-time best seasons from a passing yardage standpoint, Seahawks history. He's going to put up on projected pace for 30 touchdowns. So put him right around probably top 5-ish all time. He's averaging 9.3 yard average per attempt, which, if I'm not mistaken, will put him right up close to an all-time best for a Seahawks quarterback. And he's doing that with a 70% completion percentage. You got a top 3 scoring offense right now in the sport. What is the standard that we are trying to hold this man to? Or is it that anything short of Stafford and Josh Allen levels of play is failing? Because
I don't think it's that. I think the standard might be if the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines goes 11-1 every year, but can't beat Ohio State, he doesn't keep his job, right?
Yeah, but it's
at
so hard
some
to come to
point.
that
Sam Darnold's going to need to play
but
well against Chris Shula and beat the Rams.
See, but even this to me is a little bit oversimplified because number one, you're working off a sample size of data in 3 games, and number 2, different things happen in all 3 of the games. Yeah. And a lot of if you want to look at really a commonality of all 3 of those games, the offensive game plan from O'Connell in 2 of those games, and then this game against Kubiak should really be the thing at the forefront we're talking about. And by the way, Darnold played pretty good in
that
that
offensive
first half.
line in Minnesota too.
And that offensive line, he played pretty good in that first game against the Rams when he had Darisaw. When he lost Darisaw, things went into the tank. And he might have had them go down the field. By the way, there was an uncalled holding, a face mask call at the end of that game. I'm not trying to be a Sam Glazer or denier that there's not any spots to his game. I think Mookie bringing up, for instance, when he gets up near the line of scrimmage right now, the book is out that defenders are going to sink to the receivers with him. This goes back to last year in that very Rams game that he had a play like this where it was go get the 5 yards in a first down and a third down. He tried to haphazardly throw the ball in a bad angle, and it was just not a good play. But the man is playing top-level football. He's playing championship style. We can win with this guy a Super Bowl. And for me, that's the question. This ethereal standard that we're trying to go find to hold to that no quarterback in Seahawks history has ever played at is not fair and not needed. Not with the team that we're building, not with the championship defense that we're building, not with the great special teams that we have, not with the way that this team is built on playing three-phase football. He's got to clean some things up. You can't turn the ball over. There's no doubt about that. But this man's not turning into a pumpkin. You don't put this type of year and over a year and a half now of overall great play, and then you just suddenly one day it's like, well, he just faced a high-level situation and now he just falls apart. I don't buy into it in the least.
Oh, you got me fired up now, Brandon.
Can I add something here? First off, preach, Brandon, preach. Thank you. The second part I want to kind of put out, and this is to piggyback off what Brandon just said, this standard that a lot of people are coming up with for Sam Darnold and, what he's supposed to do as a Seahawks quarterback. Let's roll back to what Russell Wilson did in 2013. He just had to manage the game, make a couple of plays here or there, and let the defense and a running game go win games. That was the formula that worked. That is the formula that has worked years and years in football. Yes, you get guys like Mahomes and you get guys like Josh Allen that can win games by making a lot of those plays in a game. But most quarterbacks, and this tag of game manager is your literal job description as a quarterback. You are an extension of the coach on the field. Your job is to control and manage the game. And Sam is doing that at an elite level this year. Yes, he had a bad game, but his offensive coordinator did not set him up for success in that game. And to Brandon's point, there was not nearly enough criticism of that game plan on Clint Kubiak going into that game. You had a defense that gave you what you've wanted all year, the least amount of stacked boxes, and you refused to run the ball. Sam Darnold had 28 attempts going into the midpoint of the third quarter. He averages 28 attempts a game. You set your quarterback up for failure. You played right into Chris Shula's hands and what he wanted you to do. And where was your adjustment, Clint? You had a team that walked up and played press on your receivers the whole game to disrupt your quick game, and you had no answer for it through most of the game until they backed off and played prevent, which allowed us to go down the field in those last two drives really and create something. So I sit there with Brandon on this and go, you're about to have one of the statistical best seasons a Seahawks quarterback has put up in a non-high volume pass offense. This offense runs the ball still more, and he is putting up elite level numbers. Everyone needs to just take a chill pill. He's not turning into a pumpkin. He's not going to, disappear and become Sam Darnold at the Jets. This is the guy that you're going to have, and he's going to have an odd, bad game. Every quarterback does.
Now, as we kind of stay in that same vein and we look at the pieces that need to be in place for this team to contend these last 6 games and make a deep playoff run, is we got to help Sam out, to your point, Bryce and Brandon, as much as we can. And we've touched on it. We're starting to see, and we saw it on Sunday, the little checkdowns, the little dump offs. Saw a couple to Walker, saw a nice one to AJ Barner as well for a nice gain at one point when Sam didn't like what he saw in his first read. So part of that is being unpredictable, being multidimensional. We keep waiting for some sort of breakout or a sign of a breakout for Rashid Shaheed. I think he has more carries than catches at this point through 2 games since the trade deadline. We also talked, as we were getting ready for the show, about Elijah Arroyo. And I feel like we talk about him every time we get together, that we see the signs, we see a play here or there. We know the upside. We know what a mismatch he can be in certain circumstances if he gets a linebacker or even a safety on him at times. Why haven't we seen that? And how much does it concern you? Mookie, I'll start with you.
I'm not too concerned about Arroyo because he is a rookie tight end and not even the starter. He's not even the best tight end on the roster because AJ Barner is on his way to honestly one of the best
But Arroyo can do things that Barner can't do.
Yes, he is a better pure receiver than Barner. And obviously Barner's a better blocker than Arroyo, which is why Barner's the better all-around guy. But with Shaheed, that's the thing with wide receiver trades midseason, is it takes, even though he's familiar with Kubiak, he's not familiar with Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
So that chemistry, I think, will build up over time. I think Seattle is going to give Shaheed a contract extension. And they had in mind a long-term vision with him. He's still pretty young. He is a talented receiver who's on pace for a really good year on a horrible Saints offense. But like the misfire, whether Shaheed was supposed to sit in the zone or Darnold was supposed to hit him in stride, maybe there's a chance that it gets picked by the safety underneath. But still, like that's a timing thing. There have been a couple of misfires from Darnold to Shaheed that have been, to me, down to timing and not having a lot of practice time with Shaheed. Now, that isn't to say Shaheed still can't contribute to this offense. Maybe one of these gadget plays will actually work for more than 3 yards. I feel like there are easier ways to get on the ball in the receiving game, though. It doesn't have to be 10, 15 yards or more down the field. But they need something soon with this receiving core not named Jackson Smith and Jigba, because Cooper Kupp is really, outside of 2 games, limited to a 2-3 catch a game guy at most, and he's struggling to get open in man-to-man coverage. He can still be a great run blocker, a guy who will carve up zones because he's so smart and he's so savvy with his route running. But we know that this is not Cooper Kupp in his prime. And with Torrey Horton out for as long as he's out, I think right now it's putting more strain on the Seahawks offense, because when you think about the Commanders game, yeah, Smith and Jigba went wild. He didn't get a touch, but Torrey Horton, it looked like that was the start of a breakout moment for Torrey and becoming like the wide receiver 2 by the end of the season, which is why this injury popping up the way it did was such a bummer. And even with the Shaheed trade, you look at how the Seahawks offense has performed the last few weeks. Yes, Smith and Jigba still feasting, and they're getting Walker more involved in the passing game. But the wide receiver productivity not named Smith and Jigba is bordering on non-existent. Shaheed, as you said, more carries than catches. Bobo is barely part of the offense anymore. Cody White is sort of part of the offense, and he doesn't really get targeted. And then Cooper Kupp, not a high-volume target guy at this point. So they need to help Sam out, get a little bit more out of their receivers. And that includes like getting into gear with Rashid Shaheed sooner rather than later. And for Elijah Arroyo, maybe it is time to split him out and let him become a pseudo receiver more often. So yeah, it's 12 personnel, but Arroyo is like a tight end in name only. And we get to see him in more receiver stances instead of being an inline tight end, because he's got the talent. He is a physical mismatch. I think they got to lean into that more often. And I think we'll get a better sample size in terms of what they can do down the line if, and I know this sounds crazy, if the Seahawks actually throw the ball more. So if Darnold is like at 30 or 35 attempts, maybe we get to see more targets out of them. But if it's 20 to 25 attempts, then at least let those Arroyo and Shaheed targets be really efficient if it's low volume.
Brandon, let me ask you about another guy that I'm a little mystified by how much and how he's being used, and that's Robbie Utes. It seems like it seems to me like he's just not on the field as much as I would have expected him to be. And then when he is, it seems really predictable. You know, he does that little slide motion thing. He's usually the lead blocker. We usually kind of know what's coming. They haven't tried throwing the football to him at all. That was something we thought we might see. Am I kind of making too much of that, or do you feel like there's some missed opportunities in his usage?
I think it comes down to a little bit of his play. And I think that there are some times where he's not getting his blocks laid in the hole properly. He's not clearing guys out. We've had some cool moments where he's got the 2-for-1 with the Steelers. But I think when I watch the tape on the L22, I see a lot of times where when you see this run game go wrong at times, a couple guys losing their blocks a little bit. Like for me, Zabel's hit and miss in the run game. Like when he hits, he's got his guy, he controls him, looks brilliant. When he misses, the guy slides off like he's a greased up pig. And so it's just Utes that same way. And I just think they probably don't have as much confidence because he's in there to block. So, yes, you can get a little bit of a pass here or there with him, but you have to first establish him as being a top level in the whole linebacker decleater before you can kind of get to the spot I think that you're looking to utilize him. And I think Mookie's point about the pass attempts should be undersold, and that you've got only so many passing attempts from a passing attacks. We talked a couple weeks ago. That's probably going to be 31 32nd maybe in passing attempts when it's all said and done. And then you've got a cheat button out there that you can press that for some weird reason, I don't know who Clint Kubiak hypnotized this offseason in order to convince teams throughout the league to refuse to double team Jackson Smith and Jigba. But we ended up with a safety on him this last week in single coverage as he's on setting the record for Calvin Johnson's record. You look at, I know it's the Titans, but you're just like, a safety? Like, your game plan somehow ended up with like us just with a simple motion across the face with him into the slot. And well, I guess our safety's got him now. That stuff's happening a lot too in some of this stuff. And I think Sam's seeing that and he's like, you guys seeing this? Like, I got it's right there. So I think that's a little bit, it's all kind of all that. I think, I know that wasn't your question with Utes, but that's kind of where I see it a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's the craziest thing about this team, watching this team is, you want to, I try to talk myself into it being a problem that like, they got to use other dudes, but if it's working, right, keep it simple, stupid. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. One last question on this subject, Bryce, when you watch the tape after these last two games, right? And I know you watch the all 22 with your coaching eye. Do you see missed opportunities for Shaheed? Do you see some things that are out there that maybe we're leaving out there?
I think it's just more the fact of a guy trying to still familiarize himself with this offense. And if you go back and you look at, for example, when receivers are generally traded for at the trade deadline, it takes them a good chunk of the year to get on page with the quarterback and get on page where the scheme and whatnot. Like, you look at when Odell Beckham got traded to the Rams, he really didn't finally go off until the Super Bowl game, right? Like, he was kind of just hit and miss. Yeah, he'd be there and he'd have an odd catch here and there. And it wasn't until later on in the year where he finally got familiarized with what they were doing that he was actually able to step in and kind of play. When I watched the all 22 though, the one thing I'm noticing, and this is just a tendency, and again, I'm not sitting in the Seahawks coaching room and listening to their game plans, but to the point of like, Sam throwing to JSN a lot, or we're not getting all these other guys involved, it looks like there's a lot of split field read concepts from this Clint Kubiak offense, where it's not a full field read progression that you see from like Matt Stafford and the McVay offense, where you see Stafford start on one side and kind of work his progressions and they kind of work him across the field. It's more Sam comes out, he drops back and he's really kind of looking at one side of the field right off the bat, or he has a pre-snap determination of this is the side I'm attacking and this is the defender I'm watching. And a lot of the time, JSN's the guy that's popping open because, to Brandon's points, Clint Kubiak did something this offseason for teams to go, yeah, we're cool. We're just going to sit back and let JSN run all over the field, and we're not really going to do much to disdain that from occurring. But if you look at the numbers, like for Sam this year, 61% of his throws are going onto the first read. That leaves you roughly around, a split up of 7% to a second read and a pure drop back. And the other bit's 24% there for, for play action. Those are kind of the things you got to look at and go, okay, so what are we doing offensively, schematically? And it can be simply just that, hey, look, his predetermined pre-snap read is saying attack the left side of the field. It's not a full field read progression or concept. So he's got his 1, 2, 3, get to my check down.
All right, I want to jump ahead in our agenda a little bit because I know Brandon, in a little bit you're going to be pressed for time.
Okay. I'm okay.
But I do want to get some of the questions and things that we have as well. So I want to jump to the big picture stuff that we're going to talk about. And that is, I'll ask each of you, we'll just go around. Mookie, we'll start with you. Make it kind of a two-parter. Where does this team stand right now after 12 weeks compared to where you thought they would be? And then where do you see them going from here? And specifically, what do you think it's going to take for them to win the division? I get the sense that some people are already sort of just handing that to the Rams, acquiescing to them. And part of it might be the tiebreaker situation, similar to last year. I've seen some playoff projections out there where people have the Rams and Seahawks finishing with the same record, but the Rams end up, on all the simulators, New York Times, ESPN, as being the team on top. So let me ask it to you that way. Where does this team stand compared to where you thought they were going to be about this time of the season? And what do you think it's going to take for them to win the division? Because we're not giving up on that yet, Mook.
So at the time the season started, I had them at 7-4 at this stage of the season. I had them losing to Jacksonville and Houston and Washington and the Rams. And obviously Washington has completely cratered, so that became an easy win. And Jacksonville is good. I mean, they're a good enough team to possibly win that division. They're not too far from the Colts. And then Houston, I think they're starting to hit their stride defensively. And if CJ Stroud can come back and kind of elevate that offense more, they could make a run for the playoffs too. So I think that I gave them a readjusted 12-5 at the end of the season after how I viewed them at the bye. 13-4 territory, 13-4 land. I see a couple of residents here of the 13-4'sville. I think is a distinct possibility at this point. They are better than I expected in a couple of ways. One, the passing offense, and by that I mean Jackson Smith and Jigba, is way better than I had envisioned. I thought there would be growing pains, and there really haven't been. Just having Darnold and Smith and Jigba perform the way they have has been a bonus. But the other bit is the offensive line. I don't think we can stress enough how good this offensive line has been. I'm not saying they're the best in the league or anything. They've definitely had some ugly games, and they're not great in run blocking yet. But Sam Darnold, 3.5% sack percentage. You realize how insanely low that is? And given that Russell Wilson, for as great as he was extremely sack prone. Geno Smith in 2 of the 3 seasons he was here, pretty high sack rate. Sam Darnold is getting the ball out on time, no doubt. But he's not giving you the worst of both worlds. So he's not giving you a bunch of turnovers and a high sack rate. He's giving you turnovers, but he's giving you elite level productivity in many metrics. And he's not getting sacked a bunch. And the sack bit is important because usually sacks are drive killers. They're like delayed turnovers. So the fact that they're keeping Darnold upright is big. And I think that as far as what it takes to win the NFC West, they may have to win out. Let's be real with the Rams schedule. That version of Carolina we just saw, I don't know how in the world they've won 6 games. So I think that the Rams probably beat Carolina. The X factor for the Rams, as far as a stumble before the Seahawks game, is that Detroit game. Mm-hmm. And on paper, that might be a terrible matchup for the Lions because we know that Goff under pressure can completely disintegrate. But if the Rams do stumble and the Seahawks win that Week 16 game, suddenly things flip. I think that even if they don't win the division, they're almost a lock for the playoffs if they can hold serve and win the Minnesota and Atlanta games. So the last couple of years, it's been, all right, this Rams game and paying attention to the Rams is so important because if without it, Seattle misses the playoffs. Now they're chasing the Rams and possibly the 1 seed. But if they don't get the 1 seed, they might be the 5 or 6 seed in the wild card race. And you know what? With the way they performed on the road over the last 2 seasons, I think they could be one of those teams that wins a playoff game or 2 on the road and maybe makes the NFC Championship game. They're that capable. I mean, Philadelphia, they might be 8-3, but they're not looking super. And outside of the Rams, really, there is no super dominant, super scary NFC team right now. So I'm in the why not us mode as far as the Seahawks and their ceiling for this season.
Brandon, how about you?
Yeah, I think that Mookie probably captured pretty eloquently where I'm probably at for the most part here. I had this as an 11-win team at the start of the year. I think that we're basically on track to reach out to about that spot of things. The next 2 weeks are so big because I think you kind of get the hay in the barn at that point. You want to get another win or 2 after that point. But like you talked about, Dan, the tiebreaker situation is what it is, where we need 2 losses off the Rams. They don't look like they're losing 2 losses, but thank God for Frank Ragnow. Maybe he can help us out in that game with his return in that one. All that being said, this team is on the right approach. You are like 9-7, 9-8 on a scale of 10 as far as having a championship level approach in your team building concept and where you're heading, and even the potentiality of this season still being there. I don't know if they'll reach it here yet. I think we've got to see them, take down some of these kind of contender-like teams, take down a Rams team, not necessarily even in this game, but if it does come to playoffs to really, know, but as far as to be able to make some noise in the playoffs, to be a threat on the road, to be a team that's, ready and showing you now, and I think they've already shown it here, that we're taking a step this year. This is progress. This is not just a lateral kind of season, but one where this is really coming together. And you never know with this stuff. It just takes being the hottest team at the end of the season with the health stuff all situated together at the same time. That all tends to be a big part of this and that puzzle. And if you look at our health situation, as much as we've had a scattering of injuries here and there, everybody's kind of due to be back here if all things kind of fit to form here by the end of the year, including even maybe the addition of O'Reilly Mills.
Yep. Bryce, how about you?
I'm still sticking with my prediction of 13-4 because it's still a possibility. And I will stay with that until they lose their 5th game. So I tend to agree with both Mookie and Brandon in this, though. Like, this team, I think, is ahead of where the reset rebuild was. I think this team truly can, if things break a certain way, really make a push. I don't know if they can go to a Super Bowl and win, but I definitely think they can win a playoff game. I think they can be competitive in a divisional round game and maybe with a few bounces here and there find themselves in the NFC Championship game. For me, this, the Colts game and the Rams game are huge to deciding where this team truly is at, because as much as the Colts have kind of had up and down, they are still a good football team. They're one of the better teams on the AFC side this year. And you have them, and then you have the Rams, back to back and on a short week. It's really going to test this team and to see where they're at. And so, for me, those are the two games I kind of have circled right now going, okay, what are we going to see out of those two games? What, team's going to show up? How healthy are they going to be? And can you capitalize? And that's the one thing I think this team still needs to do. I think Mike Macdonald still needs his signature win in a way, and he hasn't gotten that yet. I've heard some say, San Francisco last year in Candlestick, or not Candlestick, but Levi Stadium, that wasn't a signature win, in my opinion. He needs to beat the Rams in a game that has enough significance to it that could determine where you seed in the playoffs. And that's one thing I'm still waiting to see is Mike's signature win and getting the team going in that direction. So that's kind of where I stand on it. But I do think they have the opportunity to surprise some teams.
Just want to note quickly, we can't totally rule out the 49ers still being on Seattle's coattails, because they would have a tiebreaker in the case of a tie because of how good they've been in the division. But you see their schedule. They get Cleveland, Tennessee. The Colts game could be tough. On a Monday night at Indy, they could lose that game. But you have those two. You got Chicago, and they're 8-3. But come on, they still got a negative point differential. Eventually, I think their luck might run out. They're better than expected, but the Niners may still be kind of chasing Seattle. So you want to talk about signature win? That last game against San Francisco, highly likely to have meaning for at least one of these teams. So that could be another signature win opportunity. And if that game is essentially deciding the division for the Seahawks, they need to win that game to clinch the NFC West, maybe clinch the 1 seed, that would be the signature win upon all signature wins. It would feel like a playoff victory in a way, and it'd be doubly impressive and important because it would make 49ers fans really sad. And then we would get to watch their beat reporters go squabble for the rest of the weekend.
Oh, yeah. For the record, I wasn't as far off as I thought in my original preseason prediction, right, which is the genuine one that I put out. I had them 7-4 at this point, so only off by a game there. And I had them 11-6. At midseason, I changed that to 12-5. I look at this schedule, though, and I guess this is where, if you want to talk about floor and ceiling, I don't see a game left on the schedule that I don't feel confident about. I feel good about the rematch with the Rams under the lights, Thursday Night Football here. The Colts game doesn't make me as nervous as it did a few weeks ago. I think we're kind of seeing maybe Daniel Jones turning into a little bit of a pumpkin. He hasn't been as good the last few weeks. And yeah, Jonathan Taylor, he's in the running for Offensive Player of the Year. He's put up some huge numbers this year. That offensive line is really good. But the Seahawks are one of the best teams in the league. We've seen this at stopping the run. And to your point, we might be getting some of those guys back too. So I think they can run the table. I think they might have to if they want to win the division. But I also don't know if they have to win the division to get to the Super Bowl, because you guys have pointed out the rest of the field isn't other than the Rams again, which we would probably face for a third time. I don't think it scares me. And this team has shown that they're good at playing on the road. I know it's a different animal in the playoffs, but just the process and everything else, taking a word from Mike Macdonald, process. They've got that figured out. It doesn't intimidate them at all. And I don't think that would change for them anyway, from the Seahawks perspective, going out on the road. Should we check in with the folks, with the fans? Let me get you guys in here. Let's get you all back in here. I've got this set up so that you won't all be cut off by some of this. First of all, we got some guys, Industry Worth, hopping in with some super stickers early on. Sorry it took me so long to get to these. And then a nice big fat super sticker. Really appreciate that. Thanks, you guys. By the way, shout out to fans of the Hawk's Eye podcast and Bryce Coots. This isn't always the case, but I'm looking at our numbers of where people are watching from. Overwhelmingly, the most viewers that are in here tonight are watching us through Bryce's channel. So good job. Hey, look at that. You guys switched around. How did I do that? I don't know. Interesting. Industry Worth, also a new member, and he just jumping in, just just kicking
There's
some
more.
ass with these super stickers. Doesn't even want to ask a question. He's just like, he's spamming us with cash.
She's very kind.
That's the best kind of spamming that there is, man.
He's a super
Very,
register.
very
We're
kind.
just going to
I was gonna
cycle through
say.
this.
Thank you so much, Cal, out there. You're awesome.
Why
Appreciate it.
why can't the spam calls that I get on my cell phone come with Apple Pay?
Yeah, we better make sure that his bank doesn't call. I see this repeat transaction over and over again. We're just checking in to see.
Some of these might be reversed. But good to have you. Really appreciate it. Jay Gundy checking in with the super chat. I've asked B before. I assume, let's see, B, Brandon. Well, it could be Bryce. B, Bryce? I don't know. We'll see. But if you could have a Super Bowl redemption game, would you rather face the Steelers again or the Patriots, or run it back with the Broncos? Patriots and Broncos could actually be possible. What would mean? I'll take this to the whole. Let's just circle around. Brandon, start with you because I think you're B. Who would you rather face to get a little bit of measure of revenge?
Jay originally asked this question with just Steelers and Patriots, but now he's added in Broncos, and I just think it would be so funny. It would be so funny after the Russell Wilson trade and after beating him in the Super Bowl already once to take down the Broncos again, especially, Dan, with our connections back to the AFC West too. That's just like the one extra little sizzler on this one for me that just kind of throws it over the top. So that would be the one for me.
Bryce?
I got to go with Steelers. I still hate the fact because I feel out of the Patriots one and the Steelers Super Bowl, we got cheated out of a Super Bowl victory in that game by something that was really out of our control in some respects, like just how bad the officiating was in that game. And, it's just the truth. Like, that was such a good team and such a fun team, that 2005 team, because they were the first team that had gotten us to a Super Bowl. And Sean Alexander was playing so well in that group, and that kind of defense had kind of come together. I'd like redemption on the Steelers, and just to crush their dreams in another Super Bowl would be great.
How about you, Mookie?
Well, when the Seahawks played the Steelers in the Super Bowl, that was my first year living in the Seattle area. Truly, I moved there in 2005, a few months before the season started. So I got to witness for the first time in my life, or at least that I could recall, a city rallying around a team. And it was so exhilarating to be a part of. Naturally, when they won the Super Bowl, I had left Seattle the year before. I don't want to rematch with Denver. It'd just be funny. And, maybe in a way, Denver and Seattle have both actually recovered very well from the Russell Wilson trade, because the Broncos cut bait with Russ, and suddenly they got this defense. They may have their quarterback, all those things. The New England game, it doesn't hit the same without Brady and Belichick, so I don't really care as much. But Pittsburgh, DK Metcalf scoring a touchdown that gets flagged for offensive pass interference. Jackson Smith-Njigba coming down with a touchdown, getting both feet in bounds. Sam Darnold scoring on a touch, or having the AJ Barner cross the goal line but not really get the ball across the plane, but they let the call stand. AJ Barner atoning for Jeremy Stevens' umpteen drops in that game and getting, catching everything in his sights. You also have, Ty Okada being the atoning for Ettrick Pruitt, taking a terrible angle on Willie Parker's touchdown run. What were you going to say, Bryce?
I got one more to add in there. Torrey Horton throwing the ball to JSN for a touchdown on an end around, like Randall L to Hines Ward.
Wait, I got one more. We gotta have the one where their quarterback tackles our guy after he throws an interception, and then he gets flagged.
For
an illegal
tackle. Low block. Yeah.
Pittsburgh giving up 3rd and 28 on a Sam Darnold prayer to let's say Rashid Shaheed that sets up a goal to go. So Pittsburgh is another fan base where they are, they got the terrible towels, they got Renegade, but man, when they lose, they go into meltdown mode, and it's really entertaining to watch. So a redemption game would be for Pittsburgh, because man, for Walt and Sean to not have rings, it just stinks.
Yeah, I think to Brandon's point, so many things are different. Like, it wouldn't mean anything to beat the Patriots again because Bill's not there. I think just from a football standpoint, the Steelers would be the most fun, I think, because of the DK JSN storyline. And then it would just be so much fun to beat Aaron Rodgers. If by some chance the Steelers make their way to the Super Bowl, to maybe send him into retirement with that just foul look on his face, you know, and he's had some really memorable losses against the Seahawks. It would just be one more. I think that would be a lot of fun. The Broncos, I mean, obviously their defense would scare me a little bit, but if they've somehow made it to the Super Bowl, I might like that matchup the best because I don't think Bo Nix can beat this defense. So that's where I stand on that.
Somebody in the comments
You
going
couldn't
Raiders
last year.
versus Hawks would be peak, though. So for some reason, I don't think the Raiders are going to be playing in any Super Bowl anytime soon. They might be playing in like a college bowl game in the near future. But
Jake Gundy checking in again with another super chat. Which former player would you most like to be a future head coach?
Oof.
Who do you think of the former? Let's go. I guess just kind of since I don't know. You can pick anyone. I guess. Who do you think is out there that might make a good? I assume he means former Seahawk players.
Doug Baldwin.
Yes.
I think he would be intense. Michael Bennett would be hilarious, but I think Doug Baldwin would bring a different level of intensity to him that I would love to see on the sideline.
Bryce, what
Cam
do you think?
Chancellor?
You're the coach, Cam. I'm surprised. I felt this way about the 95 Mariners crew, and then 30 years later, Dan Wilson decides to get into managing, and Edgar decides to be a hitting coach. None of those guys from that kind of LOB and those great teams really got into coaching at all. Deshaun Shedd.
Mm-hmm.
There's
KJ.
a couple of Nico Thorpe is coaching.
KJ's down in San Francisco.
I think that's the one. That's right. I think KJ could be a head coach.
I have one other to add to this, and I don't think he would do it. I have two. My first one, I think Bobby would actually be a really good head coach. I just don't think he has any. I don't think
he's going to be a GM.
Yeah, he's going to be a GM, but
right.
The way Bobby is, I just think he would actually be a fantastic coach. The second one, I would actually probably pick Matt Hasselbeck. I think Hasselbeck could be a good coach.
I was always surprised he didn't go that route. He tried doing the broadcasting thing, which I thought he was really good at it, but he just never seemed to really get a big job there. For some reason, good NFL quarterbacks don't want to be coordinators. Maybe just because it's such a pay cut.
Well, I think it's just that time. It's the time involved. These guys have to, after you go from being a multimillionaire paid all that money, now you got to go get paid peanuts and work 12-hour days. It's probably a tough, even if you love doing it, that's probably a tough sign if you got the million sitting in the bank.
Yeah.
Trent Dilfer became a former Seahawk turned head coach, but
that didn't go great.
He would like to.
That
didn't go great.
That didn't turn out too well.
No, that didn't
Woo!
go great. All right. Let's see what we got here from you guys. Let's check a few things out here.
There's one other guy that's coaching actually from the Seahawks past.
There's another donation in there too. We have one other donation in there.
Is it another super sticker from Industry Worth?
It's Jay Gundy,
former head coach. Here we go.
Here
we go. He's asking about Reuben Bain Jr., defensive lineman from Miami, right? Miami.
Mm-hmm.
What would it take? It would take, first of all, having to lose our next 6 games, which I don't want to do, and then it would probably still take a trade up. I mean, this is a top 5, top 8 guy in this draft, right?
Yeah, it would take me creating a very scandalous false rumor about him to tank his draft stock. Like, anybody got a gas mask on him, like the way it tanked Laramie Thompson's stock?
Yeah, I love him. There is a chance that he is a little bit of a galvanizing prospect off of what you hear out there. It's not as universally no-brainer that he's going to go versus the kid out of Ohio State, let's say. He's looked at by a lot of people, including myself, in this manner, the way you guys talk about him. I think he's that guy. He, to me, reminds me a lot, and I hate to mention this name because the production's not there. He reminds me a lot of a Reggie White in his build and how he wins, and the ability to have that power, but then also the dip and the bend, and then to be unusually sized as a defensive end on top of all of that. I don't know if he's going to get to that quite of a stage of things as far as how good he is, but you see that just unique size of power where hand makes contact on tackle goes flying.
John McGrath chipping in with a Cup would be a fantastic head coach.
Indeed.
How about current players? Anyone stand out to you that might be head coach material other than Cup?
I think Julian Love.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that. Yeah, that's a good one. Julian would definitely be a guy you could see.
Yeah, I'd say so. That's
It's usually the guys that it doesn't come easy for, right? So a guy like Ty Okada or Drake Thomas, right?
Yeah, they're not always the star
I could see
players.
Pat O'Connell being one. He'd make a good DC. Patty.
Yeah. All right, we got a nice super chat here from Senor Tiny Baby Goat.
For the big $20 drops. Thank you, Tiny Bo.
I don't know if I want to know the story behind that name or not know the story behind it. Checking in our conversation from earlier, the irrational expectation for Sam is silly. His numbers this year show he was the best free agent quarterback. Oh, by the way, if you wanted to sign a quarterback with the numbers we were seeing from Sam, none were available, and it's $50 million a year. Go Hawks. Yeah, the Seahawks got a little lucky this offseason, didn't they? Because they didn't anticipate Geno wanting out. They fully intended to pair him with Clint Kubiak, and usually, to Senor Tiny Baby Goat's point, the free agent quarterback market every year is usually hot garbage. Like the fact there was a guy like Sam Darnold available got a little bit of luck.
I think that they were softly pushing Geno out the door. I don't think that I know what the PR stance is on this. I know what we're told publicly on this, but we have to make our peace with it. We're not always told the truth of what's behind the scenes. And if they wanted Geno here, they would have kept Geno. It wouldn't have been down to a couple million, or that they would have undercut him. They came to him with a probably low ball offer, and he was like, what's this? And they go, yeah, it's a good offer. It's just we still want you. I mean, we want you. I mean, we do want you. Yeah, but the offer's not legit.
So it's the old, we're going to offer you a deal that we know you're going to turn down.
Yeah, it's the old thing in negotiations. If somebody, Geno did what you do in negotiations. If somebody comes in there and they offer you a deal that's not even close to, you don't come back and then counter them. You step off of the table and you walk away. That's how that works. And that's what he did to us there. But it was Seattle knowing very well how his reaction was going to be. They didn't walk in there like a babe in the woods, like, gee, I didn't know Geno was going to react this way. I feel the same way about the DK thing. I think they knew very well aware if they wanted to make both these things happen, they could have made them happen. You're dangling DK at the combine the week before.
Yeah.
So like, again, what we're told publicly on both of the counts of this, I'm not buying an inch of it.
Yeah. All right.
I will say this. I think John Schneider's ability to get rid of quarterbacks now, or trade quarterbacks, I should say, he's probably got that. He's on that list for everybody going, yeah, don't listen to a word John says about anybody, because it's basically snake bitten two franchises with the trades they made with John for quarterbacks.
Bryce, sorry to jump in this real quick. Yeah. Bryce touches, because this is back to the donation with this. Then that's why I wanted to I wasn't trying to push too hard back on this point with this, Dan, but just that John's getting this stuff right. Like, it ain't luck on this. He's moving the pieces on the board of the table when it comes to specifically the quarterback position really well. And it's not that these are clear, easy choices to make. Look at how 49ers are flipping and twisting and turning over themselves with now the Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. And what are we going to do for the future? It might be Kirk Cousins when we all see it said and done by the time we get through the offseason here. And you've got him, Russell, moving on at the right time, getting maximum capital for him, choosing to go with Geno, then getting Geno on the mid-market deal and getting high value for 17th highest paid quarterback as you did in the sport. Then flipping him for a third-round pick to go get another mid-market deal back for Sam Darnold and being proven back for this. When there's this many decisions getting right with one particular position over a 10-year run, your general manager, I think, has got a pretty good sight line on the QB position.
And the flip side of that is you lock up the young guy that you have to a massive extension because it's just so hard to find quarterbacks. And that's when you end up getting stuck with a Tua Tagovailoa or a Trevor Lawrence at $150 million or whatever it is, because you're too scared or you just don't know where to go. And I think there are a lot of GMs out there that are really good at drafting. It's a great point by you, Brandon. They're really great at the scouting process and value and setting their board and everything else. But this kind of stuff, like coming at the unexpected offseason stuff where you have to pivot and come off your plan A, really kind of separates the good GMs from the great GMs.
Yep. I hope we're in an era where guys like Darnold are making the money that the guys like, Tua should be making. Which is to say, you should not be automatically leaping from rookie deal to highest paid quarterback in the league when you don't have the requisite stats or team success to justify that. And we're seeing it hamstring Miami, hamstrung the Giants with Daniel Jones. Like those deals really are out of control and need to be reined in a lot more. And Seattle has been able to hit back-to-back. I know they didn't win a playoff game with Geno, but they didn't get bottom of the barrel quarterback play. And it's working so far with Sam Darnold. As I told Bryce yesterday on his show, it was kind of a blessing in disguise that Darnold did not have a great last 2 games, because it probably drove his price value down in the free agent market. And Seattle ends up getting a song. To me, he's already outperformed his contract. So
if the Vikings play better, he plays better, they go deep in the playoffs last year, they probably offer him a 3-year deal. Instead of the 1-year deal that they offered him. Probably it sounds like it was kind of similar to what he played on the year before, in the $10 to $20 million range to come back. Of course, he was going to turn that down when given the opportunity to come here and start and do 3 years. They probably offer him a longer deal and keep him.
Yeah, because there's always the Minnesota.
And then
had
is
the draw
Daniel
from
Jones the quarterback of the Seahawks in that case?
Well, probably Aaron Rodgers.
Or Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's right. There was the report from Michael Silver.
And there was the report today from Jeremy Fowler that the Vikings are looking at if they can get Jones back this offseason.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not kidding. Jeremy Fowler, who's a respected ESPN reporter, put that out there, that's something that he's hearing, is the Vikings are trying to figure out if they can kind of bring back Daniel Jones into the fold because of how badly they have messed up this situation.
I'll tell you guys what, if there's a game that crystallizes for a franchise that this guy, I know it's early in JJ's career here, but with what's gone on with him up until this point, in a game where you were behind, in a game where you limited his passing attempts to protect him, and he still threw 2 interceptions against your division rival, those are kind of one of those moments where it's like very easy franchise to go. I mean, and I think they might be getting there with him a little bit on, we got a Super Bowl ready roster. Do we want to just sit here with this thing waiting for him to eventually come around?
Yeah. I think they take a step back, stick him back on the bench, try and develop him, and they bring someone else in, because that roster, they're not built for later. All right, guys, I want to do something here.
I don't get how they get. I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't get how they pulled Daniel back into it, because part of the reason you couldn't keep Daniel Jones there was the fact that you have McCarthy sitting there off on the bench, ready to be pulled at any time forward. And you know that they're white. So, like, how do you talk them into that other than, I guess, dollar bills, and you just throw them all the money?
Yeah. It seems like that's such a good situation. Indy probably wants to stay there, and it's already been widely reported that they intend to make him their priority. So I'm going to do something here. It wasn't on the agenda, guys. It's a little surprise for you. But it is Thanksgiving Eve. So we're going to do kind of a rapid fire here, but feel free to, expound as much as you want, and folks, you can all chip in as well. I'm going to throw some Thanksgiving items up on the screen, and I want to hear yay or nay. All right. Just want to hear some preferences. I mean, let me get you in here, guys. I always forget to do this. Can somebody alert StreamYard so they don't have to do that? All right. I mean, obviously, turkey. We heard, who was it? Oh, Gray Zabel was asked about this today, and he said, he had a great answer. He said, never turkey. Now, granted, this is a guy from Pierre, South Dakota, right? This is a farm boy. He said, never turkey on Thanksgiving. Prime rib is day one install, is what he said. I thought that was great. Turkey or not turkey? We'll just go right down the row right here, Mookie.
If it ain't smoked, it's a nay for me. Turkey's overrated.
Ooh, okay. Bryce.
I got to go yay on turkey for me, just because of how my brother-in-law cooks it and how my wife cooks it. It's probably one of my favorite meats around the holidays.
Tremendously overrated. So many other better options to go to. So many other things. It's all tradition at this point, as far as I'm concerned.
Without turkey, you can't have turkey sandwiches. And to me, that's an even better part of Thanksgiving, is the next day or later that night, depending on when you eat dinner. Cannot wait to get the turkey sandwich. So I don't know what you guys are talking about. I do have, I want to hold on here. Here we go. John McGrath says, hey, where's the fedora? So I better wear
I know, man.
the rest of
Put the fedora on. A dog is never seen without his fedora.
Tip of the cap to my dad there. All right. Next one up. These are going to be a little more controversial, I think. Sweet potatoes, yay or nay?
Nay, I've never really gotten it with sweet potatoes. I love baked potatoes, but sweet potatoes not for me.
All right.
Not a chance.
Really? Is that a Canadian thing? Canadians hate sweet potatoes?
No, they're at my dinners and stuff as well.
Okay.
But for me, they're out because I'm not a fan of sweet potatoes and I hate marshmallows.
What? Yeah, you're definitely
I love
non-American.
marshmallows, and that's the most vomiting-inducing dish of Thanksgiving.
Oh, you guys. Well, that means more for me. And I'll tell you something. In our family tradition, they look even worse than this. First of all, these are an abomination because they should be mashed. Okay, not chunks, mashed. But we use sweet potatoes, not yams, and I know they're all related and whatever, and that's kind of a polarizing thing. And so sweet potatoes technically are like the white ones that come out like light green. Those are the ones we use. So it does look like baby puke.
The whole reason they drape the thing in marshmallows is because it tastes like crap. They're just like, let's just layer it in marshmallows. This will bring it to life.
And I'm all about sweet and savory, and this gives you something sweet on the plate. You guys will find that I'm yay to everything. Spoiler alert.
You can put frost on a turd. It's still a turd.
This is one that people disagree on. Stuffing or no stuffing?
Stuffing is a yay for me, but it's got to have a little bit of crunch to it. I don't like it soggy. I like it with a crunch.
I have a secret for that. In fact, we're going to do this tomorrow. Take your stuffing mix, put them in muffin tins, and then what comes out is like an individual portion, and the top is a little bit crunchy. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have stuffing. Stuffing is like number one priority for me. I love stuffing. And to your point, Dan, on turkey sandwiches, I layer a bunch of stuffing in there that soaks up the gravy so the bread doesn't fall apart on you.
Okay. All right. I only started adding stuffing to my Thanksgiving sandwiches about 10 years ago. I was late to that. Brandon, stuffing or no?
I'm a no on stuffing.
Brandon just eats yogurt on Thanksgiving.
I was going to say,
I'm a simple man. I'm a simple man.
I got a feeling Brandon's a steak and like lobster asparagus guy at the holidays. Like that's what I feel like Brandon is.
I'm very simple, man. It doesn't take a lot to make me happy.
Follow-up question.
Bread rolls, big time bread
for
roll
the
guy.
two who are stuffing. So Bryce and Mookie, follow-up question. Gravy on your stuffing or not?
I put the gravy on the side. I save the gravy for the mashed potatoes.
Okay.
Always on top of my stuffing.
Yeah. I want to make a shirt that says, because I'm always gravy. Gravy goes on all of it. It goes on, you make your plate and then just the whole thing.
Yep.
All of it for me.
You like me
all
some
right.
gravy.
Here's another one. And this one might get people fighting in the comments anyway. Cranberry sauce or no cranberry sauce, and jellied or with the berries?
Nay for me. I like cranberry juice, and for some reason I don't like cranberry sauce.
It's good for your bladder.
So for me, it is 100% yes on cranberry sauce, but I will not eat the jelly stuff. My wife makes it homemade with like little pieces of orange zest and stuff in it. That's the way to do it. I will eat cranberry sauce, Dan and guys, out of the container on its own. I love cranberry sauce that much.
Let me guess, Brandon.
That looks awful. I don't know why any human being would choose that voluntarily.
Sorry.
There's so many other options that are better.
So what are you doing tomorrow?
There's
are you doing
so many...
Wendy's?
I'll do the potato. I'll end up eating some, turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy. And I'll have like 17 rolls, with butter on them and, homemade rolls and those kind of things. So I usually always find something, but I think some of these dishes are a little antiquated, and we should update some of the Thanksgiving dishes, in my opinion. I think there's too much.
Oh yeah. We've evolved in my
for tradition's sake.
We've evolved. I make it like a corn casserole now that is one of the side dishes. And yeah, I'm a jellied cranberry sauce. Get those fucking berries out of there. They just get in the way. But also mostly because then you put it on the turkey sandwich and you layer it with the turkey and the mayo. You got to have the sweet and the savory. All right. Pumpkin pie or not?
Sorry, I can't think about pumpkin pie without a certain Bernie Mac routine, but it's a nay for me. My dad loves pumpkin pie, but for I'm not a pumpkin guy.
All right.
If it's there and it's the only one, yes, but I'm more of an apple pie with a piece of good cheddar cheese on top is my thing.
I'm a yes, as long as it's got some whipped cream too. Use the whipped cream,
right.
But I'm a yes.
Pumpkin pie is funny. Yeah, I think more than anything else at Thanksgiving, I like it and I'll eat it and I look forward to it, but only on that one day. Like you're never, ever, and they're always in the store. But in the middle of June, I see a pumpkin pie. You couldn't pay me to eat it. It's just not right. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Let's see. Let's go back here and see what more we got from the peeps. See if
I think we've kind of the food discussion going on in the chat is absolutely awesome right now. I seem to have thrown a curveball when I said apple pie with aged cheddar cheese on top.
Cheese and apples go together great from Max Bailey. I've never tried that, but I would because I do again like sweet. And I'm actually, when we're done here, I'll be making a pumpkin pie. So your boy's handy in the kitchen, guys. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
CK Seahawk says from Publix, we don't have those on the West Coast, but I know Costco, every year you see the numbers, just the sheer number of those, like $8.90. I think they actually raised the price last year. They're like $12.99. Still a great value because they're about this big, but just how many of those they make and sell every year is unbelievable. Yeah, it's got to have whipped. Who eats pumpkin pie without whipped cream? What kind of heathen?
That's a
Neanderthal. My name's Bryce.
Really? Okay.
Oh, I hate whipped cream.
What?
Oh my
God.
Yeah,
I'm a weird fellow when it comes to some of the food takes. You guys will hear from me. Trust me.
Chet's getting on me for my choices. He's over here putting cheddar on shit, and then he's not liking whipped cream.
Guys, I have an announcement. This will be the final episode of the Seahawks Syndicate. At least involving me. No. Pecan pie. I know some people kind of go that way.
No.
I don't like pecan pie is one of those things that a good pecan pie is heavenly, but 90% of the pecan pies out there, unless you make it from scratch, are just trash, and they're not worth even buying.
The pecan pies, they're the raiders of the pies.
Ooh, I gotta give credit to someone brought one up in there. I think it's John brought one up. Pumpkin pie cheesecake from Costco. That is like next level.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good combo. It's a nice combo.
Superior
Record says cheddar on pie. What?
Yeah. You got it. Now, you can't get just basic. It's got to be aged cheddar properly. Like, it's got to be a good cheese to put on top of the pie. It's the only way it works properly.
I'll eat anything with cheese. So,
yeah, I'm with you on that one. CK Seahawk says sweet potato pie. So I was intrigued by this a few years ago. Made one, and you know what it tastes like? It tastes like pumpkin pie. So why bother? That's my view on that. It tastes almost exactly like pumpkin pie. Yeah, lots of whipped cream. Oh, here we go. Amy, just 2 words. Hates pie.
Amy, do you hate crumble as well? Because crumble is a little bit different than pie. Do you hate crumbles as well?
Oh, you talking about like a cobbler, like a
cobbler crumble, like a berry crumble, or like an apple crumble, like that kind of thing. Yeah, they're different.
Strudel, apple strudel, green bean casserole. It's kind of I could take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
If someone brings it, I'll throw a little bit of it on my plate. Right.
Question: what are your guys' go-to veggies then at Thanksgiving dinner that you are like a must?
It's veggies. What are you talking about?
You gotta have some veggies here.
Al Michael's never eaten a vegetable when I see things.
Vegetables. Green bean casserole, maybe. That's as close.
Stuff that's in the dirt.
Our family did used to. My mom used to always make a big green salad, which I just always thought was fine. Like, I love a good green salad, but it was just, I'm trying to shove all that other stuff into my belly. That just takes up space.
Veggies
gravy.
For the rest of it.
I'm getting a lot of support for gravy on everything, you guys.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, gravy on everything.
I'm with you there.
Nothing wrong with gravy on everything.
And honestly, sometimes, and as much as I love turkey, right? I'm pro turkey. Like, sometimes it needs the gravy if it just gets a little overdone and a little too dry.
I love the combination when you have the mashed potatoes with like a just dumped in gravy, and then you got the roll that you're able to put through there.
Oh,
and just
yeah,
get it all
roll.
The dinner roll with some butter just dripping off the sides of it.
So what I'll do, guys, on my plate is I build a massive mountain of mashed potatoes, and then I kind of squish the top with the spoon, and then I pour the gravy in there, and it just drips out like a volcano all over.
You're creating a dormant volcano.
100%. It's a gravy dormant volcano that when it reaches everything and you just mix it all, it is fantastic.
Noob says, what does Brandon eat?
I don't love turkey, but I do eat it. It's fine once a year with it, but like,
he's very lean and fit, so he probably
this is true. This is true. I got a question though.
He clearly eats better than I do.
Oh, he eats better than I do completely. I got a question though. So for you guys, is it like Thanksgiving is generally turkey and then Christmas is another protein for you guys? Or like how does that work?
That's a good question.
It's been both in my family.
Ham. Oh, well, you know what? I'm having Thanksgiving lamb tomorrow. So
Ooh.
lamb shank.
Okay.
I love
Fancy.
lamb as much as I love
That's
prime
hard.
rib.
That's
So,
hard to cook.
Yeah. Growing up, we always just duplicated Thanksgiving dinner for Christmas.
Yeah,
That has
ours
changed.
too.
Yeah, that's changed. We played around with prime rib a little bit. Sometimes my dad would insist on having a ham, like a spiral ham and turkey. Then the ham usually just kind of went to waste. But in the last few years, we started just ordering Chinese food, doing the Christmas story thing. And we love that. It's easy cleanup. Chinese food rocks. There's a good place here in Maple Valley. We get together at my sister's house if I'm in the area, and we just do that. And I actually look forward to that.
That's a good idea.
They're always open. They're always open on Christmas, just like in Christmas Story.
Just don't get the duck.
Boo, Cranberries. Hey, Zombie was a great song. Please show some respect.
John McGrath says, my grandma used to make stuffed eggplant with Italian sausage and roast peppers, topped with melted mozzarella. That doesn't sound Thanksgiving-y, but I want it.
It sounds great except for the eggplant. Eggplant, I'm out. I'm out on eggplant.
Really?
Those
I love a
God,
good
I
eggplant parmesan.
Nope, can't do it. Give me chicken parmesan. I ain't doing no eggplant. I'm out.
Holy Hand Grenade says prime rib on Christmas for us, usually. And then Amy says, because we know Amy hates turkey, ham for Thanksgiving, prime rib for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Underrated little bird to do is a Cornish hen.
Mount gravy, we call that. I liked how Bryce told that story, though, like he invented it.
Yes.
I didn't invent anything. It's just what I do.
I
just don't put the little dinosaur, chicken nuggets in there and play the Jurassic Park music either.
Guys, how are we feeling about Sunday's game? Let's kind of just wrap it up there. Mookie, we'll start with you.
I think they should blow out the Vikings. I think the Vikings are on the cusp of packing it in. So the only concern I have really is if the defense of the Vikings kind of plays more to its reputation as opposed to how they've actually played this season. And Darnold gets a little frazzled with blitzes and guys don't get open. There's some turnovers. Other than that, even an undermanned Seahawks defense should shut down that Vikings offense, because unless Max Brosber is Tony Romo 2.0 and amazes everybody with his debut, his first NFL start, I don't see how Minnesota is going to score consistently. So I think Seattle should win comfortably.
Bryce, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I again, unless Seattle completely has a PTSD moment like we used to with backup quarterbacks, I just don't see a way. Like, yes, they have Justin Jefferson, they have Addison, they have some playmakers and that, but you got to have someone to get in the ball. This O-line they've got is a complete mess. I think this may turn into another situation like the Cardinals game a few weeks ago where the onslaught starts quick and it just rolls, and Sam may not throw more than 12, 15 passes in this game.
What do you mean the offensive line sucks? They signed Will Fries.
And
yeah, because that's how you build an elite dumpster fire of an offensive line. You just spend all the money in free agency.
Yeah.
Because that works so well. We've seen that work so well for so many teams over the years.
Am I up?
Brandon, you're up.
So I think stylistically this works really in our favor on both sides of the ball. Yeah. You mentioned backup quarterbacks. I think a commonality of what we've seen with Mike McDonald since he's come here, and we saw it in the first 3 games right out of the gate with Knicks, with Jacoby Brissett, and then with Skylar Thompson when he came in from Miami. You put him with a backup, you put him with a young quarterback, and Mike McDonald will put that young kid in a blender. You did so last week with Cam Ward, and Cam played in a sensational game, I thought, but you still absolutely made his day hell. And really, the only thing that kind of eased it up for him was that you dialed it back with DeAnthony Bell coming in the second half. So you have, to me, a guy that's going to completely put this kid over his head, and you have an offense already struggling on top of that. They don't run the ball consistently enough to attack our lighted box, and then you flip it over to the other side. Offensively speaking, the Rams showed you the blueprint for going at Sam, which is light boxes, 4-man fronts, drop guys into coverage, and try to squeeze the holes in the zones where you can. Well, that's not Minnesota's game. They're the most blitz-heavy team in the sport. They're going to bring and they're like top 10 in stack box rate. You're kind of going into the teeth of what Darnold does well here. And remember how Mike McDonald lamented in training camp, but he keeps trying to blitz Sam, and he's making the decisions too quickly on it. And it's like, That's what he does. It's like if you make it that quick where he's got to go bang, bang and make everything really quick where he doesn't have to like kind of think through things in the pocket as you would when you have more guys in the back end. I just think this doesn't work well stylistically for Minnesota in any way, shape, or form. I'd say 27-10 Seahawks the way this will probably roll.
Yeah, it's really changed over the last 6 weeks, right? I was kind of looking forward to facing JJ McCarthy because he's just a guy that his mechanics are a mess right now. And I want this Seahawks team to start picking the ball off. I want us to start taking the ball away. And I think that would have been a good opportunity. Maybe it is for Brosmer as well, is he didn't really have a propensity for throwing picks in college, but he's a guy that, like, look, there's a reason he wasn't even invited to the Senior Bowl. He's got a nice arm, but he ends up going to the East-West Shrine game. He's a big dude. He's not very mobile. He's never seen anything like what he's going to see on Sunday. I think it'll be the defense will at least give this offense a good test because, Brian Flores has already come out and said, hey, I love Sam. We're friends, but we're going to blitz the shit out of him. And so they'll do that. So, give Sam a little bit of a chance to work on his chops. But I know I said this last week, and I just was underestimating how close we were to Cam Ward kind of putting it together and having his breakout game. I knew that the talent was there. I even said it on Bryce's show on Friday that I thought the only way that I could make a game out of it is if he ran around and made some crazy plays because he's capable of, and that's kind of exactly what happened. I just don't. Brosmer's not that guy. He's not capable of doing something like that. So we do have a little bit of a late addition here. Mark Sanchez. Enjoying his retirement, checking in. Says, I have a curveball. What was the worst dish you ever had for Thanksgiving? I had Jell-O with veggies inside it that my girlfriend made me. Tell me you're not with her anymore, please. And I was the only one to take some. It was awful. Peas, carrots, beans, and red Jell-O. You're kidding. I mean, I grew up. I'm old enough to know when they made Jell-O molds but it had like fruit in it.
Oh,
that's awful. Yeah.
Boy, that sounds like jail food. And speaking of jail, hi, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Worst Thanksgiving dish you ever had?
I can't recall, really.
Somebody brought, I think, lasagna in with, it might have been like cream cheese or something in between, or some like as a layer, and boy, it didn't work.
I think worst one for me was shredded Brussels sprouts with turnips, like boiled. It was just awful.
That's rough. Mookie, can you think of one?
I can't think of one because the worst dish I had was actually Christmas, and it involved mac and cheese. And I don't normally eat mac and cheese, but when you can't even make that properly, probably shouldn't be in the kitchen. So that was like a last time I've had it.
I'll just say this, that I can't think, because the thing with our family growing up is we stuck very closely to tradition. We didn't experiment. Like, I remember one year, as the years went on, I started helping out more and more with the family. Like, my mom just didn't want to cook as much as she used to, and my dad couldn't. So I started experimenting with the stuffing, right? I would add sausage or walnuts to it and things like that. And that was just, I almost got ostracized from the family. So we just didn't mess with stuff. But I will say this. I remember a couple of years because my dad was always obsessed with trying new ways to cook a turkey. I'm like, we've been cooking turkeys for 40 years in this family. They come out fine. And no. I read this one way where you put it in the oven at 500 degrees for like a half an hour to sear it. And then you turn it. So we kept messing around with it. And I just remember one year the turkey was so overdone that it was like cardboard. And we all had to do the thing like Christmas Vacation where they're trying to eat the turkey, the carcass that just got almost obliterated, where it's like you just douse it in as much gravy as you can and take a small piece and choke it down and try it. And we all just lied. We didn't want to hurt his family. So, yeah. Well, guys, we did it.
You got a donor from Cal to your side as well. She threw one. It's just $1 donation on your side, but thank you, Cal, for all your industry worth. Sorry.
So. There it is. Another one. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. Jumping around, helping us out.
Thank you,
I
Cal.
like it. Guys, good to see you on Thanksgiving Eve. Hope you all have a wonderful holiday. Please, whichever site you're watching, check out all the others. If you're watching on my site, get over to the Hawks Eye with Bryce, get over to Hawks Nest with Brandon, subscribe to those guys. And if you're not reading Field Goals, you're doing it wrong. So get over there and read the stuff that they're doing over there as well. And guys, unless anybody has any last words, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving and go Hawks. I'm honored to have you as friends. And it's more than just a syndicate. It is a brotherhood. And we will be back in 2 weeks, hopefully with 2 more wins stacked. Wouldn't that make Mike McDonald happy? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Should we try a 1, 2, 3 go Hawks?
Let's give it a shot.
All right, let's go with this cadence because I think that's what messes us up. Go Hawks. Got that speed, right? Go Hawks. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go
Hawks.
No, you're way. Should we try it again? Let's try that again. Because what you all did is you went 1, 2, 3, and then in your heads you went 4.
Okay, on 3. So it's on 3,
Okay,
not a
ready?
soft 4,
3.
but on 3.
1, 2, 3. Go
Hawks.
You did it again. That's it, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you next time on the Syndicate.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.